Welcome. My name's Aubrey.dayle, and that was the band Living Color with one of the best drummers in the world. If you want to go behind the scenes of where he has been in his musical life, where he is now, and where he hopes to be in the future, stick around for my conversation with the incomparable Will Calhoun right after this. So here we have one of the best drummers on the planet, Mr. Will Calhoun. Welcome, Will, to Aubrey Drum Lessons.
Thank you, Aubrey. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man, thanks
and
for coming.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, we've known each other for decades now, which sounds a little frightening when you think of it that way. And I'm glad to call you friend. So let's get into it. The Bronx.
Yes.
You were born in the Bronx, is that correct?
If my Brooklyn friends hear me, I'm going to get in trouble.
Okay.
Aubrey, so I was born in a hospital in Brooklyn, which makes the Brooklyn people claim me as a birthplace.
Oh, okay. So let's not mess with that.
After the 2 or 3 smacks and some milk, I went uptown to the
Quickly.
To the North Bronx.
You hightailed it, like, all right.
I hightailed it. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. I was a passenger on that mission. I was only a passenger.
All right. So I know I've talked to you at times about growing up there, and I just want to know, what was the musical environment where you grew up?
Wow, incredibly rich. Raymond Chu lived behind me.
Wow.
So he was older than me, by a couple of years, but our parents all put us in the music programs and Jewish summer camps and chess and karate and all of that. Steve Jordan lived 2 blocks away.
Unbelievable.
And Pumpkin, who Errol Bedwood, the incredible drummer known for starting hip hop, but also was an insane jazz bassist and classical pianist, lived about 10 blocks away. So in the Bronx, when I was growing up, the bands were hardcore and great, and they would go in the park and cover like the whole Miles Davis Nefertiti album top to bottom, or the whole Earth, Wind & Fire record top to bottom, with all the background singers and percussion and vocalists and so on. These were things when I was 9 and 10, 11 years old, when I would go to the park, I would see people playing Mahavishnu top to bottom, A Vision of an Emerald Beyond. Yeah, this was the level. This was
serious.
So getting into those records as a youth, and then going to the park to play with my friends and see my neighbors playing this music was very inspiring. Now, my older brother was a prodigy.
Okay.
He did play drums, so there were drums in the house. I started very late. I started at 16.
16?
I wasn't interested in playing drums because my brother was so good.
Right.
And when you have an older brother, needless to say, we fought. And, it was Oscar and Felix. He was a slob, and I was very neat.
Right. Okay.
And, I couldn't touch his kit. But what got me over was all of his friends loved me. All of his friends, because their younger brothers weren't into jazz and international films, and I was into that kind of stuff because I followed my brother. My brother was like my hero growing up. So Steve Jordan came by, Pumpkin came by, Ray Chu lived, like I said, his backyard face. So our parents always met, barbecues. So it was really this kind of mosh. And then you had the Caribbean community, which in my neighborhood at that time, although the 50s is when they moved up, by the time the 60s and 70s came around, I was going to school with these kids. So when I would go to their house, the Guyanese families had the dope Guyanese music, and the Jamaican families had the pre-Bob Marley music. So I got to hear things before Bob Marley. And once my friends' parents knew I was interested in music, they would give me records. My Puerto Rican friends would give me Cachao, and their fathers would say, "You got a Calhoun, you got to hear Cachao, you got to hear Early Tito." All of this kind of stuff. So, I was young, so I was into Fine All Stars, and my friend's dad would go, "That's great, but you need to hear this."
Right.
So that was how rich it was at the time. Haitian families, Dominican families, Puerto Rican families. There was all of this stuff up in the Northeast Bronx, and it allowed me to have the food, to meet the people, to, even as deep as when I went on vacation in the South, my grandfather was an autonomous farmer who had all of these animals and livestock and none of my friends believed it. So I would bring my friends on summer vacations down to my grandparents' house, and then sometimes my friends would take me to Jamaica or to Guyana. So all of those things all of those combinations of people and places made the culture. You asked me about the music. It made things very tangible for me. So I had a very hands-on environment to music, culture, drumming, bass players, horn lines. And to top it off, our house was the SIR of the neighborhood.
Okay.
So all the instruments were left in the basement. We had a 2-family house, and my mom converted it, the first floor, into a kind of a music studio because everybody was playing in the neighborhood. And my mom said, why play in the park when you can use the house? So I was fortunate enough to walk downstairs at any given day. And my brother was a very open-minded drummer, so he played organ trio, gospel rehearsal, funk bands, jazz quintet. And everyone left their gear at our house. So I was able to just go downstairs and just listen to my brother play with all these different bands. That was the impetus, I think, without me realizing, for me to start to get into music and drumming.
It was like being in school without realizing it, really.
Incredible. It was. When I think about how lucky I was to be, and not wanting to do it. So I was really open to it. It was there, and I was fascinated by it. I got to see the guys who were always late, the guys who were super geniuses that played all the instruments and had near total recall. I could hear a song one time. The guys who showed up with a different girl every rehearsal, well, it taught me not to judge people by the way they look or the way they behaved. That's what it taught me. So they're very lethargic, laid-back guys that were razor sharp when it came to tunes.
Okay.
And there were guys that came prepared, but they weren't prepared.
They seemed prepared, but they really weren't.
They talk the talk, and then let's try it from the top. And there's the guy. Those guys made all the mistakes.
Right.
So it was good to get both sides, the spiritual side of it, and then the humanitarian side of it.
Amazing, and it all happened right around you like that.
Totally. 8 to 10 block radius tops.
Amazing. So, you then went to Berklee. You went to Berklee, and you shared a good friend of both of ours, who was your teacher, and I studied with him for a while as well, Mr. Tommy Campbell.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that tall basketball playing monster.
Yes.
Okay, Aubrey. See those triplets? Do those 300 times. Soft. Quiet. No, that's too loud. Quiet. So, did you study with them full time there, or was it a part-time thing, or how did that work?
Absolutely. Tommy was full time.
Full time.
I left that practice room every day like I was training for a Tyson fight. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Also, did you have other drum teachers, or it was just Tommy Campbell?
No. There was Ed Kaspick.
Ed, right.
There was Skip Hayden.
Yes, sure. Right.
Ramsey, obviously, who had all of the John Ramsey had all of the information from
Alan Dawson, right?
He had all the Alan Dawson information, as did Tommy.
Right.
I wanted to study with Alan. I honestly was broke in school because I didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And Alan worked out of his house, and I didn't trust, honestly, the racial climate in Boston. So I didn't want to drive outside, or take a bus out there and have to deal with that aspect of it. So to be honest, I was just like, let me stay here and stay close to the school. And there's somebody I can't leave out who's, I think, one of the best drummers in the world. And his name is Lenny Nelson.
Oh, Tommy mentioned this guy.
Yeah, Lenny Nelson.
Yes.
Lenny Nelson.
Yeah.
To me, as a teacher and what he has in his brain, I haven't heard anyone be able to break down, teach, or explain. Some of those things you can find online, but he's almost kind of, in a sense, been black ball.
What happened to him to make him in that status, to get him? I mean, was it just something?
he made some life choices. He was a bus driver in Boston. I think he had a technique of teaching, and it wasn't suitable to the school. I mean, Lenny's teaching was Jack LaLanne. It was work out until muscle failure. You know, and you know, that was Lenny's thing, and he put all the drummers in the same room. So you and I and Tommy and Smitty or Jeff, we would all be sitting in chairs, and he would go, "Okay, Aubrey, come on, let's do the hi-hat technique thing. Let's do crossovers," and he would push you like a football coach or in a very healthy way, not in an insulting way, but in a way that you were going to be the champion of the world.
Like training,
I love that about him, but it wasn't the style of the school, and the school released him, and then he taught at home, then he made a bunch of videos, and then I've been, to this day, since Berklee, calling him and getting videos and getting information, because no one has that information, I in my opinion, and in the intelligence and the IQ of the instrument like that man does.
Lenny Nelson, so that's something to look out for.
Yep.
Yeah. You also studied sound there as well, right? Like I remember you're speaking about, was it a recording program or was it?
I was in a recording and engineering major at that time.
Okay.
I didn't want to go to Berklee, to be honest. I wanted to stay in New York, because by the time we're around the same age, by the time I went to finish high school, my friends started to get record deals. And then my friends that weren't into hip hop record deals, I should say, because the music was just blowing up. My friends that were not into hip hop started going on tour with Mick Jagger's side project, or Duran Duran, or Cyndi Lauper. So I kind of felt like, what the hell am I going to school for when all my mates are getting these nice gigs? And, yeah. So that was a frustrating part. And then two very interesting interceptions from my neighborhood. The great Lou Donaldson lives in the Bronx too. He's from the Bronx. Yeah. And Lou attended my mother's church, and I remember my mother calling me saying, "Lou Donaldson is here, and I told him you were going to go to school. He wants to talk to you." Okay. So I went over to the church, very excited. Right. You know, my dad had like 100 of his recordings. Right. And I walk into Lou Donaldson. I grew up with the music, and I walk in this church. I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Donaldson, how you doing?" And they said, "Oh, you're Miss Calhoun's son?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "What can I help you with?" I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go to Berklee." And he stopped me and he said, "What the hell are you going to do that for?" Oh. like he didn't, like, for him, that was it.
It's like, what the?
And I said, "Well, sir," he says, "No, you don't learn music in a school. You don't." So I was so excited to meet him. I didn't care about how he felt. And I appreciated his advice. And I said, "Thank you very much, sir." I left the church. Ralph McDonald, great percussionist. Sure, of course. He's from Mount Vernon, which is a stone toss from my neighborhood in the North Bronx. So Ralph's son and Anthony, were very close. So Anthony went and told his father, "Dad, Calhoun is going to be going to Berklee." Ralph said, "Oh yeah, have him come up to the house. I want to have a chat with him." Sat down with Ralph.
I'm trying to intercept you.
Ralph got me in to see recording sessions with Steve Gadd, and I got to see some brilliant. Ralph was like an uncle. Sure. So I sit down and I'm like, "So Ralph, yeah, man." And he said, "Anthony told me you're gonna go into Berklee." I said, "Yeah, I got in." He said, "What the hell are you gonna do that for?"
That's two. That's the second one.
And he told me that Berklee is a cookie cutter school where you come out like the chocolate chip cookies. You come out tasting the same. Yeah. He said, you don't learn. You have to learn. This is African tradition, and you can't learn. And I love Ralph, and I love his comments, but I still was happy that he even wanted to talk to me. Sure. Yeah. Ironically, Pumpkin is the guy I went to talk to last. Okay. And I was expecting him with at that time selling beats to labels. His stuff was on the radio already. He had a whole deal with N-Rob Music, N-Rob record label, putting out dope rap tracks. Right. He said to go.
Interesting.
He said, "No, we got enough soldiers down here in the Bronx and Harlem and in Brooklyn, and why don't you go up there and get some of that information and bring that back down here to us." Okay. And I brought every recital, every video lesson down to Pumpkin to kind of, you know, he was like an older brother too. Pumpkin was the one who really was for me going, and that's I wanted to go Aubrey anyway, to be honest.
Right.
But Pumpkin gave me really good advice and said, you know, go up and see, get the vibe and come back. So that's kind of like the Berklee thing. But I was a recording and engineering major. Okay. I did wanted to learn about how to mic my kit to get different sounds, messing around with electronics and the mixing, how to manipulate tape and do all those kinds of things. But I was a drum set player. I didn't want to come out of school, honestly, and graduate, which I did, and become an engineer. I knew I wanted to play drums, but it was great for me to study the engineering piece while studying with those great gentlemen I mentioned to you a little while ago.
So what were some of the things that, I mean, not to get in too deep, but what was your focus of practicing at that time?
Berklee?
Yeah, well, even not necessarily at Berklee, but those years, you know.
Berklee in those years was Lenny Nelson's practice until muscle failure.
Okay.
To be honest with you, that was my life. I felt like I started late, Aubrey, so I was behind the 8 ball, and my brother gave me a bad complex. He said my foot was the drum set is built like a pyramid, and the foot has to be the foundation, and the snare and the toms in the middle and your cymbal. And if you don't sound like a pyramid, you know, he felt like my top was heavier than my bottom. So I had a little bit of insecurities about my foot for many years. So I worked a lot on the volume of the kit, controlling the volume of the kit. But my practice routine then was basically military, as much as possible, as long as I could do it. Sight reading, sticking, left hand, right hand, techniques, how to play with brushes, you know, musical environments, jazz trio, quartet, rock and roll, hip hop. I liked everything. I didn't want to share that with everyone because some of my teachers were prejudiced against music styles, which is not important. I studied with classical guys in Boston who feels like jazz sucks and they're not real musicians and pop music is horrifying. But it was great to go there and get my shoulders in the right place and to deal with the dynamics and learn about sensitivity, playing on the snare drum and reading music and being confident and playing the pieces like you wrote them. So everybody was helpful. I wasn't concerned about opinions at that time. But yes, I was trying to get it all in, Aubrey, and get as much of it in and spend as much time as possible on all the aspects of drumming.
Yeah, so full immersion.
Full drowning.
Right. More than just immersion. So, this is just slightly before Living Color. I know that you worked with Harry Belafonte.
Yes.
Now that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are surprised at that, you know, because it seems so far away from what you became known for. What were those gigs like? Was it like you have to read a book, or like what was the environment? He's an icon, you know. He's like a civil rights hero, a classic cultural icon. So what was that gig like?
In the beginning, terrifying.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
I played with a fantastic woman and her husband named Letta Mbulu, South African singer. Letta was kind of on the same, very political, totally against the apartheid system, of course. And her husband is known as the South African Quincy Jones, and his name is Caiaphas Samana. You can look both of them up. They're great. Caiaphas is amazing. He's like a Quincy Jones in a lot of ways. And I played with Letta, and Letta opened for Harry Belafonte. Harry's musicians saw me, and Kenwood Denard, who was another fabulous teacher of mine, was playing with Harry at that time. And his cousin, Richard Cummings, brilliant piano player and musical director, was the MD. I played with Richard Cummings in another band, a singer named Tulani Kennard. Tulani's band were all Brooklynites that were in Harry's band, just to show you how family works. So when I started to work with Tulani, Richard said, I like this guy. Kenwood was moving on to something else. Richard said, maybe Will should audition for Harry Belafonte. I got the audition for Harry Belafonte, and I was really nervous. It was a book and a lot of songs, and he ran through them. The audition was like, okay, let's do Matilda. I was like, okay, and he handed me a chart, and some other drummers had written all over it, so it was like, okay, which part is my part?
Yeah.
And we did like 12 bars of Matilda. Stop. Okay, let's do something else. And I was like, whoa! It was like the audition was boom,
like boom, boom,
right, you know, background singers, keyboard players, 17-piece band. My stomach was in a knot.
Oh my God.
I was in a hospital, which I'll put this in the interview, and I shouldn't. I was in a hospital when I got that call.
Oh, really?
I had a stomach virus.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I had a stomach virus, and I had another gig that I had a guy sub for me on, and then my sister called me to say, some guy named Richard Cummings called. He wants you to call him right away. And I was 2 days into the stomach virus, but the third day I had to just stay and rest. But when I got that call, dude, you know, I checked myself out. Yeah, I was walking slow. I was skinny. I took the train down there. I didn't even have my sticks, anything. I just got out of the road, had to put my clothes on that I had in the closet, and took the train down to Atlantic Record Studio at that time.
Okay.
And I rehearsed with this band. I didn't tell anybody that I was sick or whatever. And Woody came to say, "Hey man, I just wanted to give you a little handshake and good luck when you go in there." So I was nervous, Aubrey. I was nervous, but not afraid to do it.
Well, you're going to be nervous. That's inevitable, right? You're going to be nervous. It's just you got to jump in the water.
And it's the only audition in my entire career that I got.
That's a funny thing. I know that feeling. I don't get many of those.
It's the only audition, and I've auditioned for a lot of things, and I won't drop any names on TV shows or artists. But to Harry, maybe I should have had a stomach virus for those other
ones too, right?
But anyway, yes. So I went to Harry, and that was amazing. Great band. He treated me like a prince in the organization.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Very nice to me. And I remember the time I tried to sneak out of the tour to come home to play CBGBs with Living Color.
Okay.
And I got busted because he was on the same flight.
Oh, no. Where are you going?
So he bumped me up to first class.
Oh, yeah?
And I sat next to him, flying from New England area down to Boston, down to New York with my stomach completely in a knot. And he didn't ask me until the plane was landing in LaGuardia. Yeah. So what are you going to do?
Right, why are you here?
And I figured Mr. Belafonte has been very nice to me. I'm going to do a gig at CBGB's with the band called Living Color. And he said, really, man, do you record the shows? And I said, yeah, I do. He said, do me a favor. When you come back, man, let me hear it.
Wow.
So I already knew getting off the plane, I was fired. And this was over. And he changed my reservation to fly back with him, which was also horrifying. We landed in Buffalo, New York for the next show, which was coming to Canada, and it was a storm, so we had to drive up in a bus.
Oh, Lord.
And Harry's a game player, which I didn't know at the time because I was 19 and shy, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And Harry's, we're driving up to Canada, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and it's a storm, and it's raining like hell. And he gets on the microphone in the bus, and he says, hey, Will Calhoun, are you back there? And I'm all the way in the back of the bus trying to hide. I'm like, yes, sir, I'm here. He goes, you want to get me that tape from the show you did this weekend? And the whole band's turning around like, what the hell? You went to New York to do a gig? Are you crazy? And like, everyone's yelling at me. So I'm like, Mr. Belafonte, sir, it's under the bus in my luggage, and I would appreciate it if, we could talk about this at another time.
Right. No. Oh, and he didn't stop the bus.
The bus starts to slow down. Then the bus stops.
Oh, my
And he says, Will, go get me the tape.
Go get
and he's
tape.
Laughing, the bus driver's laughing. The tour manager's like, come on, man.
We got to get there.
Man. Yeah. He's a young guy. Don't take the piss out of him, man. Come on. So I have the tape on me, which I have to fake now, like it's underneath in my luggage. Put it in my jacket.
Now you got to go down.
Go out there in the pouring rain.
Right.
Get soaked. Open up my luggage. Close the bay. Come back in and handed him the tape. And I said, all due respect, please don't play it on the bus.
Oh,
and he said, no problem.
That's a kiss of death right there.
2 days later,
right.
The next 2 days, he didn't talk to me much. So I was ready to get the
Right.
Would you like an aisle or window seat?
Right, right. You were ready to book your flight.
Yeah. So he called me in his dressing room, and he talked to me, and he said, sit down. And I said, okay. And he said, I listened to the tape. I said, oh, okay, I'm glad you did. He said, you're going to have to do that. It's a very important band with very important music, with a very important message.
Phenomenal. Wow.
So I knew Living Color was going to happen because Harry Belafonte sanctioned it.
Incredible.
In 1987.
Wow. Phenomenal.
So I can't leave that part out.
Yeah.
He said it. He said it right then. Like,
right
no, this is going to happen. You got to prepare for it. Mm-hmm. And he talked to me about money, investments, sign my own checks. He told me what happened to Sammy Davis Jr. We had a good hour plus chat about what, and everything he said happened to me.
Incredible. He could hear it. He could hear
everything he talked about
on that tape.
How people were going to try to take public. Everything he said into me in that room.
They did that.
Happened to me. Every single thing. So that's the beauty of that experience of being. And I played for his birthday party just a few months ago at the Apollo.
Right.
And it was good. It was
like
93.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good to see him. And all I could do is from the day one is give him my blessing because Aubrey, I felt like I was too young for that situation and I wasn't prepared. And he told me that I was. He said, no, you're ready. You're ready. Mm-hmm. And the band messed with me. I got the freshman treatment. I got the, sitting in a cafeteria,
right,
trying to be alone, right. And the saxophone player would come over and get a napkin and get a Sharpie. Yo, man, check it out. On my solo, I need you to play like this rhythm underneath me. Okay? And I would go, okay, man, no problem. And I would go eating, and then the keyboard player would come over and go, hey, check this out. On the intro, like the bell pattern you're playing, it's not proper. Like, put the accent. They wrote everything on that. Put the accent on the second bell beat. I was like, sure, man, sure, of course. Right. So they were taking the piss out of me. Like, I couldn't even eat by myself. When the bass player would go, yo, man, like when you can't rush, man.
Oh yeah, that's classic.
Come on, man.
Come on.
Like the other guy was like on it. So, along with my being from the Bronx helped me because, like I said, I wasn't afraid of those guys.
Right.
And I knew I wasn't making those kind of mistakes, but I just respectfully said, okay,
right,
cool. Aubrey, they would let me have it the first 2 weeks on the tour.
That's great.
Until Harry found out about it. And then Harry said, he asked me in front of the band, you got a problem in this band? Is everything okay? I said, yes, sir, it's okay. He said, are you sure? Because I asked you to be here. And that's when it stopped.
Okay. They're like, okay, lay off the kid.
Yeah.
Right.
So, there was that aspect of it. But man, to this day, we're still all, they're all my big brothers, man. They're lovely guys. They were testing me to see if I was going to snap, I guess.
But just before I move on, so you'd only really been playing about 3 years at that point.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. So you really, that just shows how deeply you dug in, just to catch up, to get to that level. That's what that says.
I mean, Berklee was Gene Jackson, Billy Kilson.
They were all there.
They were some monsters, man. Tommy. Yeah. When I arrived at school, man, there were no slouches waiting for you to. You can walk by any drum practice room and hear monsters.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Gene Jackson was probably the most frightening drummer to hear practice. He just sounded like 8 guys in the room. So, being around Gene and Billy Kilson and Clarence Robinson, there's a lot of guys that I got to say honestly, also pulled my coat and told me, yo, study with this guy and work on this. And we even practiced together sometime. We would take a weekend. Mm-hmm. We're going to share Friday night till Sunday night, just stop for pizza and go out and get a pizza and come back. But those guys helped me to develop my stamina. Mm-hmm. It was like playing against a good friend in a sport that made you better at playing that sport. Right. And all of those gentlemen are fabulous drummers.
Yeah, that's an important thing. I remember doing that with Greg Hutchinson at Manhattan School of Music. And he was a kid. So here comes this, he was like 17, 18-year-old, this child. And I'm already like 21 years old. So I figure, well, let's see what's happening. Oh my goodness! I came out that room just my head hang low, my hands were sore. I was like, okay then, I see what New York's like. I just moved here out to New York, and I was like,
oh wow, okay.
The children are like this.
Yeah.
So I had to figure a lot of things out. Thanks for watching my video. Really glad you did that. Subscribe and click here if you want more performance and lesson videos.